The golden alien wheat swayed gently in the hot wind, stretching across the field as far as the eye could see. Two suns burned above the dry landscape, making the air shimmer. In the middle of that silent field, a young alien girl knelt on the ground, unmoving like a forgotten statue in the dirt. She looked no older than 12, with violet skin that glowed softly in the light. Her long silver-white hair fell over her face, tangled and dusty. Thick brown ropes were tied around her arms and chest. Keeping her locked in place, her legs were too weak to run, even if she could. Her name was Sira, and she had been left there by the people who were supposed to love her, her own family. A low rumble echoed across the land. The sound of the harvester. It was a machine taller than a house, made of spinning blades, grinding wheels, and metal arms. It moved slowly but never stopped. Its job was to cut and gather wheat, but it didn't care what was in its path. If something stood in front of it, it would be crushed and shredded like the rest of the crop. Sira didn't cry. She had cried earlier, when her father pushed her out of the hover truck and told her to stay. When her mother looked away, ashamed. When her older brother threw her pack onto the ground and said, "This is your place now." She had begged, she had screamed, she had asked why. But now she was quiet, her voice was dry, her throat hurt. There was no one around to hear her anyway. Just the wheat, the wind, and the harvester's slow, hungry roar. A bird flew overhead, casting a small shadow over her body. Then it flew away fast, as if it sensed something bad was about to happen. And then deep in the trees on the far edge of the field, a human spotted her. Jace Collins was an off-duty engineer walking back from a broken water tower near the edge of Zone 9. His job was boring, fixing old tech, checking signals, making sure drones didn't crash into mountains, but today, something made him stop. He lifted his old binoculars and scanned the field, expecting to see nothing but wheat. But there she was at first. He thought it was a statue or maybe some kind of alien scarecrow. But then he saw her hair move in the wind, saw her head tilt slightly. She was alive, and behind her, the harvester. Jace's heart skipped a beat. He tapped his communicator. "Command, there's a girl in Sector 14. She's tied up." In front of the harvester, a cold voice replied, "Negative, that zone is private farming property. No authorization to enter." Jace stared through the binoculars again. The harvester was maybe a minute away from her. The blades spun faster now, ready to begin their sweep. He didn't think, he just ran. Dropping his bag, he sprinted into the wheat, the sharp stalks cutting his arms and legs. He pushed forward, not caring about thorns, not caring about rules. The girl was small. She wouldn't survive even a second under those blades. "Hold on," he muttered to himself. "Hold on, kid." Each step felt like forever. The ground shook more now. The harvester was close, too close. Sira raised her head slowly. The sun burned her eyes. But she saw something, movement. A figure running through the field, a human. Her lips parted, trying to speak, but no sound came out, just a breath, just hope. Jace reached her and dropped to his knees. I got you," he said quickly. Pulling at the ropes, they were tight, digging into her purple skin. He couldn't untie them fast enough. The harvester's warning horn screamed. The machine didn't stop. It never stopped. Jace pulled out his belt knife and slashed the rope across her chest, then the ones around her arms. Sira collapsed into his arms, too weak to stand. The harvester was seconds away. Dust and debris blasted into the air. The noise was deafening. With one final burst of strength, Jace lifted her and rolled them both to the side, just off the machine's path. The ground beneath them shook as the harvester roared past, missing them by inches. The blades screamed as they sliced the air where Sira had been just moments ago. Then it was gone, moving forward, not even knowing what it almost took. Jace lay on his back, panting, holding the girl close. She was trembling but alive. He looked down at her face. Her eyes, bright purple and filled with something deeper than fear, looked up at him. "What's your name?" he asked, voice soft. She whispered, barely audible. "Sira." Jace nodded. "You're safe now." But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. Why had she been left there? Who would tie up a child and leave her to die? And what were those faint glowing lines on her skin, barely visible now that the dust was settling? The real story hadn't even started yet. Jace held the trembling alien girl in his arms. His heart was still pounding like a drum. The sound of the harvester's blades roared in his ears, even though the machine had already passed. He had made it just in time, but only just. Dust swirled around them, clinging to his jacket and coating her silver-white hair. She was light in his arms, far too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her eyes stayed open but distant, as if her mind had gone somewhere else. Somewhere far from the fear and the dirt. Can you hear me? Jace asked softly. You're safe now. You're okay. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Just a silent breath, a little shiver. Her skin was warm and glowing faintly under the dust, with strange lines that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat beneath her violet skin. Jace's hands trembled, not just from the adrenaline, but from confusion. Why would anyone leave a girl in the path of a harvester? Why was she tied up in the first place? And what were those glowing lines? He reached for his comm again and activated it. This is Jace Collins. I just pulled a child out of Sector 14. She was tied up in the field, directly in the harvester's path, static. Then a reply. Repeat, did you say a child? In restricted harvest zone? I said what I said, Jace snapped. She's injured and not speaking. I'm bringing her in. Negative, came the cold reply. That property is owned by the Brellan family. They filed no missing persons report. Do not interfere. Leave the area immediately and return to post. Jace stared at the communicator like it had insulted him. Leave her here. Are you serious? Collins, this is your final warning. He switched the comm off and tossed it into the wheat. He looked down at the girl. Well, Sarah, he said. Looks like it's just you and me. He stood slowly, lifting her in his arms again. Her body curled instinctively against him, like she didn't trust the world but somehow trusted him for now. The hike back to his rover wasn't short. The field stretched for miles and the sun above was ruthless. But Jace didn't stop, not even to drink water. Not even when his legs started to ache, he carried her through the wheat, his boots crunching over dry stalks, always checking the sky for drones. The border fence came into view, a tall structure of old rusted metal and flickering blue energy. Jace activated the code on his wristband and stepped through the temporary gap as it opened. Just behind the fence, hidden under camo netting, was his rover. He gently placed Sierra in the back seat and opened his supply box, pulling out a canteen of water. Here, he said, holding it to her lips. Small sips, and she blinked slowly, then drank, the water dripping down her chin. She coughed once, then whispered, Why? Jace leaned closer. Why what? Why did you come back? She asked, voice like wind in dry grass. He paused, surprised by the question. Because you needed help. That's all. She looked at him for a moment, her glowing eyes studying his face like she didn't believe him. Then she turned her head and whispered, No one ever comes back. Those words hit him harder than he expected. He didn't ask more, not yet. He just started the engine and drove. The rover bounced over dry ground and through shallow ravines, heading toward the base where he had come from hours earlier. But halfway there, Jace changed direction. He knew what command would do. Take the girl, cover it up, maybe sell her back to whoever left her. So he turned toward the old ruins, a forgotten outpost hidden in the mountains. It was where he stored old tech, spare parts, and off-grid supplies. It wasn't much, but it was safe. Sierra fell asleep in the back, her breathing still shaky but more calm now. Jace glanced at her through the mirror again and again, wondering what kind of life she had come from, wondering why someone would tie up a child and leave her for the harvest blades. When they reached the ruins, he parked under the half-collapsed hangar and carried her inside. He placed her on a clean cot and lit a small heater to warm the air. Her fingers twitched in her sleep. Like she was fighting something even in her dreams, Jace sat nearby, watching the strange glow on her skin grow brighter under the dark shelter. It wasn't natural, and it wasn't just beauty, it was technology. Carefully, he scanned her body using an old medical wand. The screen flashed red, then yellow, then something he had never seen before. Foreign implant detected, Class X. What the hell? He whispered. She wasn't just a normal alien girl. Something was inside her, something advanced, hidden, dangerous maybe. But then she opened her eyes slowly, locked them on him, and whispered again, Please, don't give me back. Jace felt something twist in his chest, a protective instinct stronger than logic, stronger than orders. I won't, he said without thinking. I swear I won't, and from that moment, everything in his life began to change. The old outpost was silent except for the soft hum of the heater and the clicking of Jace's boots on the metal floor. Outside, the twin suns had dipped low behind the dusty hills, casting long shadows across the broken roof and cracked walls, but inside the air was warm. Safe, for now Sierra lay curled up on the cot, her breathing slow, her small fingers gripping the corner of the blanket. She looked like a child who hadn't slept in weeks, maybe months. Her body was covered in thin, glowing lines like tiny veins of light under her violet skin. Jace sat at a table nearby, staring at the scanner's results again. The foreign implant was buried deep inside her chest, not touching her heart, but close enough. It wasn't a tracking chip, it wasn't medical. It was something else, and that scared him. He opened his old datapad and tried to search the implant code. The signal bounced through encrypted layers, then died. No results. That meant either black market tech or military. Jace rubbed his hands over his face, feeling the dust on his skin. What have I gotten myself into? He muttered. Suddenly, he heard movement. He looked up fast. Sierra was awake, sitting upright, eyes glowing brighter than before. Her chest was rising and falling quickly, panic building in her small frame. No, she whispered, clutching her side. It's waking up again. Jace rushed over, kneeling beside the cot. What's waking up? What is it? Sierra winced, grabbing her arm like it burned. It hurts. It always hurts when they come near. Who comes near? The buyers, she whispered, tears in her eyes. The ones who scan for me. They want to take me back. Jace stood and moved to the outpost's window, pulling aside the hanging tarp. In the distance above the dry plains, something small flashed in the sky. 3 red dots. Moving in triangle formation, drones? He swore under his breath. They already know. Sierra tried to stand but stumbled. If they find us, they'll take you too. Jace caught her before she hit the floor. I'm not letting them take either of us, do you hear me? I'm not going anywhere. Her hands trembled in his. You should have left me there. They don't stop. They never stop. I don't leave people behind, he said. Not you. The lights in the outpost flickered for a moment, then stabilized. Jace moved fast, sealing the windows, blocking signals, activating jammers from his old smuggling days. He had used these to hide from patrols long ago, back when he was younger, dumber and angrier. But this wasn't about smuggling. This was about saving a life. As he worked, Sierra watched him. Her eyes not just full of fear, but something new. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope? Why are you doing this? She asked softly. You don't even know me, he paused, halfway through loading an old blaster rifle. You were tied up and left to die. That's all I need to know. She blinked, stunned by his answer. But I'm not just a girl. I know, he said without looking back. And I'll find out more when you're ready. The drones moved lower in the sky, scanning the terrain, searching for heat signatures. Jace turned off the heater and covered Sierra in cold shielding fabric to lower her temperature. Then he shut off the lights and loaded the last round into his weapon. They sat in silence for a moment, only their breaths breaking the stillness. Outside, the buzzing of the drones got louder. Sierra whispered, If they find us, shoot me first. Jace turned sharply. Don't say that, I mean it, she said, her voice shaking. They won't just take me. They'll use me again, plug into me, read through my mind, my memories. I can't go back there. Jace knelt beside her again, looking into her eyes. I'm not going to let that happen, not now. Not ever. And then he saw it. Her pupils changed shape for a second. Like a lens adjusting. Her implant wasn't just in her body, it was in her brain, enhancing her senses, connecting her to something else, something she was running from. The drones hovered over the ridge now, casting red light onto the rocks outside. Jace pulled out a cloaking shell and activated it, surrounding the outpost in a shimmery bubble of distortion. But it wouldn't hold forever. Sierra's breathing grew faster, her hand gripping his. I can feel them. They're scanning for my signal. They're inside my head again. Jace made a decision. He pulled out a small knife and said, Tell me where it is. Tell me where the implant is exactly. Her eyes widened. You want to cut it out? No, he said, I want to block it. I have a dampening chip. If I can slide it in the right spot, I can shut down the signal without hurting you. She hesitated, then nodded. Lower left rib near the bone. Jace reached for his gear and got to work, hands steady even as his heart pounded. He had one shot. If he placed it wrong, it could damage her permanently. If he waited too long, the drones would find them. Carefully, he inserted the chip, pressed it against her skin, and watched as the glowing veins dimmed. Sierra gasped, eyes wide, then collapsed back onto the cot. Breathing hard, they're gone, she whispered. I can't hear them anymore. Outside, the drone slowed, hovered, then turned around, moving away from the ridge and vanishing into the sky. Jace finally exhaled and leaned against the wall, covered in sweat. That was too close, but in that moment, he knew one thing for sure. He hadn't saved her too late. He had saved her just in time. The outpost was quiet again, but the silence felt different this time. Heavier somehow, Jace sat beside Sierra's cot. Watching her chest rise and fall with slow, tired breaths, the implant's glow had faded, and the signal was blocked, but she was still weak. Outside, the drones had left the area for now, but Jace knew they'd come back, and next time they might not miss. He held the small scanner in his hand, reading the data from the chip he had just inserted. The numbers were strange: pulse spikes, energy surges, neural link traces. It wasn't a simple tracker, not even close. Whatever Sierra had inside her, it wasn't meant for a child. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "You did it," she whispered. "I can't feel them anymore," Jace smiled, tired but relieved. "Told you I wouldn't let them take you." Sierra sat up slowly, the blanket slipping from her shoulders. Her thin frame looked fragile, but her eyes held something ancient, something intelligent. It made Jace pause. "How old are you?" he asked softly. 11, she said. "In standard years," Jace frowned. "That implant, it's designed for adult minds. How long have you had it?" She looked away, ashamed. "Since I was 4, Jace's stomach twisted. 4? That's insane. "They said I was born with the right brain type," she muttered. "High memory capacity, emotional control, perfect for deep scan data systems. And your family let them do that to you?" "They didn't just let them," she said quietly. "They sold me." Jace looked at her for a long moment, trying to keep his anger down. "You were just a kid. They were poor," she continued. "They had debts. They told me it was an honor, that I'd help the colony by giving my mind to the system. And then, I lasted longer than most," she said, voice empty. "The others broke or vanished. I stayed useful until I started remembering things I wasn't supposed to." "What kind of things?" "Things about the buyers," she whispered. "The ones who paid for the tech, who used us to read secrets, military codes, research blueprints, hidden money trails. My mind kept copies, and when they found out, they marked me for erasure." "Erasure?" Jace repeated. "You mean, they delete us," she said. "Mind and body. Make it look like an accident or a malfunction. I was lucky to escape." Jace sat back in his chair, heart pounding. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. Sierra wasn't just a girl left in a field. She was a walking vault of stolen secrets, the kind people would kill to recover. She hugged her knees to her chest. "I didn't want to remember all those things. I just wanted to be normal." "You are," Jace said firmly. "You're still a person, no matter what they put in you." She looked up, her eyes shining in the dim light. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said, "and I'm going to protect you, even if the whole galaxy comes knocking." She gave a small smile, the first real one he had seen from her. Then her expression changed, more serious. "You're in danger now, too. They'll scan for you next. Use satellite traces, voice samples, everything." Jace nodded. "Yeah, I figured as much." He stood and walked to a storage cabinet in the corner, unlocking it with a thumbprint. Inside were weapons, fake IDs, old uniforms, and most importantly, his emergency escape drive. He hadn't used it in years, but now it was time. "I have a plan," he said, turning back to her. "But we have to leave this planet tonight." Her eyes widened. "You're serious?" "I know a moon base," he explained. "Abandoned by the mining guild, it has air, power, food, and no patrol routes. We can hide there. Long enough for me to figure out how to get that implant out safely." "You think you can remove it?" she asked, voice trembling. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I'm going to try, and if I can't..." "I'll find someone who can." Sierra stood slowly. "Still weak, but steadier now. Then I'll help. I know how to fly short-distance transports. I learned when they made us escape simulation modules." Jace blinked, impressed. "You can fly?" She nodded. "I've never flown a real ship, but I know the systems. I studied everything I had to." Jace chuckled softly. "Not just a girl, huh?" Sierra looked him in the eye. "No, I'm not just a girl. I'm a survivor." Together, they packed supplies, rations, water packs, medical gear, and tools. Jace showed her the old mining transport hidden under a tarp outside the outpost. It was dusty, patched with spare parts, and barely holding together, but it was theirs now. As the stars rose over the desert, they powered up the engine. The sound echoed through the canyon like a heartbeat. Jace sat in the pilot seat while Sierra took the co-pilot station. "You ready?" he asked. She looked out the window, then nodded. "I've been ready my whole life." The transport lifted slowly, rising from the earth as dust blew around them, and far behind in the darkness, hidden eyes watched from a distant ridge. A tracker had pinged once before the signal died. A flash, a trace, just enough. The hunt was not over. But Sierra and Jace were no longer running without a fight. They were heading toward the stars. Together, the mining transport soared above the planet's surface, cutting through the early night sky like a ghost. Its engines hummed low, built for stealth, not speed. The stars above blinked quietly, but Jace knew that eyes were watching somewhere out there. Silent eyes that never slept. Sierra sat in the co-pilot seat, eyes fixed on the dashboard, fingers dancing over the controls. Her silver-white hair was tied back now, and her violet skin glowed slightly under the dim cockpit lights. She looked calm, but Jace saw her jaw clench every time a warning blinked. He checked the radar again. "No ships behind us yet," he muttered. "But they will come. They always do," Sierra whispered. "Even if we hide, they'll smell the trail." Jace looked at her. "You ever been off-world before?" She shook her head slowly. "Only in the simulations. I used to dream about it, though, not running, just floating free." He smiled faintly. "We'll get there, one step at a time," but deep down he knew the clock was ticking. The implant inside her still held dangerous information, stolen data, encrypted files, black market intelligence worth millions to the wrong people. She wasn't just a runaway, she was a walking vault. And every second they stayed free, someone somewhere was losing money and getting angry. Suddenly the console beeped. Jace leaned forward. "Unregistered ship. 800 clicks behind us, gaining fast." Sierra's face went pale. "It's them." Jace cursed under his breath and flipped on the manual thrusters. "Hang on." The ship jerked forward, engines flaring louder. They were fast, but the hunter ship was faster. The distance closed by the second. "We won't make orbit like this," Jace growled. "We'll have to land and lose them on foot." "There's an abandoned rig site near here," Sierra said quickly. "Old drilling zone, deep canyons, radiation pockets, no sensors work inside." "You sure?" "I memorized every safe zone they warned us about," she replied. "That's where I hid the first time I escaped." Jace didn't ask more. He changed course instantly, banking the ship hard toward the rocky canyon below. The ground rushed up fast, lights flashing across crumbling cliffs and broken machines. The hunter ship followed close behind, its weapons hot and scanning for targets. Jace turned off all energy outputs, letting the transport glide silently toward the canyon floor. Like a stone falling through mist, the landing was rough. Metal groaned as they hit the dirt and slid behind a cluster of old ore haulers. Smoke hissed from the side vents, but the ship held. Jace grabbed the emergency pack. "Out now." Sierra followed him without a word. Together they ran across the dark canyon floor, weaving between rusted towers and cracked metal bones of a mining world that no one cared about anymore. Gunfire cracked overhead, laser shots from the hunter ship. They ducked behind a half-buried loader, panting. Jace aimed his blaster and fired back, hitting one of the enemy drones mid-air. It sparked and exploded, but two more zipped into its place, red lights blinking. "They want me alive," Sierra said, voice shaking. "But they won't care if you die." "Then we don't let them decide," Jace replied. "Come on." He led her into the ruins of a drilling chamber, walls still glowing faintly with old radiation signals, just enough to block scans, just enough to buy time. Inside it was dark and cold. Water dripped from cracked pipes, but they were hidden. For now. Jace sat down, breathing hard, his shoulder bleeding where a shot had grazed him earlier. Sierra moved beside him quickly, opening the med kit. "You're hurt. I'll live," he said with a grin. "First time I've had someone patch me up in a while." "You shouldn't have to suffer because of me," she whispered, applying the sealant foam to his wound. "You could have walked away." "Too late for that," Jace replied. "You're with me now and I don't quit on people." She looked at him, eyes glistening. "Even if it cost you everything?" He nodded. "Even then." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound being the slow drip of water and the faint hum of the implant still inside her. Then Sierra spoke again, quietly. "There's something I haven't told you." Jace raised an eyebrow. "More secrets?" "This implant. It's not just memory storage," she said. "They designed it to link minds together when it's fully active. I can connect with other implants, control them, overwrite commands, even see what they see." Jace stared at her, stunned. "You're saying you could hack into their systems?" "I've done it before," she admitted. "But it hurts. It burns my brain if I stay in too long. And you didn't think to tell me this earlier?" He asked. "I was afraid you'd see me as a weapon," she whispered. Not a person. Jace leaned back against the wall. Thinking hard. You're not a weapon, Sierra. You're a girl who survived the impossible. That makes you more human than most. She smiled, weak but grateful. Thank you. A sudden boom echoed through the canyon, too close. The hunter ship was deploying ground troops. Jace stood, loading his rifle. They found us. Sierra looked at him, calm now. Then let me fight too. You sure? She nodded, eyes glowing bright. If this is the price of helping me, then let me help you back. Together they stepped out of the chamber and into the shadows. Not as prey, but as a team. The canyon echoed with the sound of boots, drones and cold voices calling out coordinates. Searchlights flashed across the rocks, slicing through the darkness like knives. Jace held his blaster tight, staying low behind a broken mining pipe, while Sierra crouched beside him. Her glowing eyes focused ahead. They've spread out, she whispered. Standard grid pattern. They'll close in on us in 3 minutes. Jace nodded. Then we need to break the pattern before they trap us. Sierra took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Her fingers pressed against her temple. Just above the implant, Jace watched her carefully. Unsure if she was strong enough, but she had already proven tougher than anyone expected. A faint hum filled the air around her. Like invisible wires twisting and tightening, her skin glowed brighter. The lines across her arms lighting up in slow pulses. Then her eyes snapped open. There's a blind spot in their drone network. West side of the canyon wall. That's our path out. How do you know that? Jace asked. I linked into one of their scout drones, she said. Her voice low. I can't hold the connection for long. But it's enough. Jace looked at her half shocked, half impressed. You're full of surprises, she gave a small smile. I had to be to stay alive. They moved fast, weaving through the shadows. Sliding under metal wrecks and crumbling platforms, Jace covered her from behind, blasting 2 drones midair before they could sound alarms. The shots lit up the rocks in bursts of blue light. Then silence again. As they neared the far side of the canyon, Sierra stopped suddenly, grabbing his arm. Wait, Jace froze, then followed her gaze ahead. 2 armored figures stood guard near the edge of a cracked cliff. One held a pulse rifle. The other scanned the area with a neural scope. They hadn't seen them yet, but they would. We can't go back, Jace said, breathing hard. They're closing in from the rear. Sierra looked up the cliff wall, then back at him. What if we go over? Jace followed her eyes. The cliff was steep, nearly vertical, covered in rock and rusted mining chains from old cargo lifts. You want to climb? He asked, with no rope? She nodded. It's either that or get caught. Jace took a deep breath, then grabbed one of the old chains. It groaned under his weight but held. All right, he muttered. Let's do this. They climbed fast, hand over hand using pipes, broken ladders, and thick chains to haul themselves up the side of the canyon. Below them, the enemy guards were still searching but hadn't looked up yet. Sierra climbed like someone who had done it before. Light and fast, but halfway up, one of the chains snapped under Jace's boot. He slipped, grabbing onto a ledge just in time. Rocks tumbling down beside him. The sound echoed. The guards looked up. Go! Jace shouted, keep going! Sierra didn't argue. She scrambled to the top and reached down, grabbing his arm. Her grip was strong despite her small hands. With one last push, he climbed over the edge and landed beside her, both of them gasping for air. Behind them, shots rang out. Too late. They ran ahead. The land opened into a flat wasteland. The old transport station just visible in the distance. Jace's emergency ship, an old shuttle buried under sand and netting, waited there. Half dead but still functional. He had hidden it for a day like this, though he never imagined it would be for someone like her. They reached the station as the first gunfire hit the metal walls behind them. Jace unlocked the hatch and shoved it open. Inside now! Sierra jumped in first, crawling to the pilot's seat. Jace followed, slammed the door shut, and sealed the cabin. He fired up the engine. Fingers flying over the controls, the ship groaned awake, shaking off years of dust and silence. Outside, enemy troops surrounded the station, shouting into comms, aiming rifles. They're in the ship, someone yelled. Too late, Jace muttered. The shuttle rose into the air, slow at first. Then faster as its system stabilized, blaster fire slammed into the hull. But the armor held just as they cleared the ridge. An enemy ship gave chase. We've got company, Jace said, eyes locked on the screen. I'll handle it, Sierra whispered, her fingers already tapping into the ship's targeting system. What are you doing? He asked. She closed her eyes, linked into the targeting system with her implant, and sent a false signal to the enemy ship's tracking AI. "I'm showing them we went the other way," she said. "They'll follow a go signal instead of us." A moment later, the enemy ship veered sharply east, following the fake trail. Jace stared at her, stunned. "You just saved our lives." She leaned back in the chair, exhausted. "Let's just say, I've had a lot of practice." The stars stretched around them as they broke through the last of the atmosphere. Silence filling the cabin at last. They were free. For now. But freedom always came with a price, and Jace knew deep in his gut that the real fight was still ahead. The stars outside the shuttle's window twinkled like tiny promises. The hum of the engines was steady now, soft and low, far from the roaring blades and flashing weapons they had left behind. Sierra sat in the co-pilot's seat, her head leaning against the glass. Her eyes were half closed, but her thoughts were wide awake. Jace sat beside her, piloting the ship toward the hidden moon base he had told her about. The location wasn't on any modern maps, just a half-finished station built inside a hollowed mountain of rock, left behind by a mining company that went bankrupt years ago. But to Jace it was a second chance. And to Sierra, it might be a beginning. "Almost there," Jace said gently. "We'll be inside the base in under 5 minutes." Sierra nodded slowly, her voice quiet. "Will it be safe?" "As safe as anything can be," he replied. "No scanners, no satellites, no patrols, just rock, silence, and time to heal." She looked down at her hands, the glowing line still dim but visible. "What if they come anyway? What if they never stop hunting me?" Jace glanced at her, his tone steady. "Then we make them regret it." The shuttle touched down softly inside the dark docking bay. Old lights flickered on as power returned for the first time in years. Dust swirled through the air, and the echo of the landing rang through the empty steel halls. They stepped out into the silent base, Jace carrying a light pack, Sierra walking beside him slowly. "Still sore but stronger than before. I'll run diagnostics and get the systems back online," Jace said. "There's a med bay and sleeping quarters. You can rest as long as you need." Sierra looked around the metal corridor. "No one's ever given me time before." "You've got it now," he said with a small smile. "No pressure, no tests, just breathe." She followed him to the control room, sitting on a dusty bench while he activated the main console. Screens came to life, old logs, power status, maps of the tunnels that led deep into the moon. Then she spoke, slowly. "I want the implant gone." Jace turned to her, serious. "I know, and I'm going to help you do that. But not just to be free," she added. "I want to choose who I become after." He nodded. "Understanding you will." She leaned forward, eyes intense. "I remember things, Jace, coordinates, weapons caches, people who paid to hurt others like me. I don't want to forget it all. Some of it needs to be exposed." Jace exhaled. "That's a big decision." "I don't want revenge," she whispered, "but I want truth. I want to stop them from doing this to others." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small device, an interface unit. "Then when you're ready, we'll transfer what matters, store it safely, and wipe the rest." She stared at the unit, then slowly reached for it. Her fingers hovered over it, then rested gently. "You're not like the others," she said. "You didn't save me to use me." "No," Jace replied. "I saved you because someone should have." "A long time ago." Silence settled between them for a moment. Peaceful silence, not fearful like before. Then Jace asked, "When they left you in the field, did you ever think someone would come?" She shook her head. "No one ever came before. I thought it was over." He smiled gently. "It wasn't over. It was the beginning." She looked at him now not like a scared child, but like someone standing at the edge of becoming something new. Her eyes didn't just glow from the implant, they glowed with decision. Later, after rest and food, Jace set up a clean medical space. Sierra lay still while he connected the neural blocker. Her hands shook, but she didn't cry. He looked at her and said, "You don't have to be brave. You've already survived more than anyone should." "I'm not being brave," she whispered. "I'm being free." He smiled at that, then focused on his work. For hours, he carefully mapped the implant's layout, locating wires, channels, and power cores. Sierra stayed conscious the whole time, guiding him when he hesitated, and finally, with a soft beep, the implant went dark. No pain, no light, no signal, just silence. Sierra sat up slowly, blinking as if seeing the world differently. "It's gone," she said in awe. "It's really gone." Jace nodded. "You're free." She stepped down from the table, standing tall, stronger than he had ever seen her. "I'm not just free," she said. "I'm finally me." He looked at her, and something deep in his chest stirred. Admiration, pride, maybe something more. What now? Sierra walked to the window that looked out at the stars. "Now we build something new. Maybe we help others like me. Maybe we bring truth to the surface." Jace joined her at the window. "And I'll be with you, whatever you choose." She turned to him, eyes glowing not with tech but with hope. "You didn't just save me, Jace," she said. "You chose me when no one else did." And for the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't running. She was moving forward, not as an experiment, not as a prisoner, but as a person, and she wasn't alone anymore.